no safe way to do that, is there?
Hello, my name is Allie. Welcome back to whatever it is that we do here. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so I thought what better time to park it in bed and talk about some books. It's been a hot minute since I've done a reading review. There's 20 books we get to talk about. Let's get to it. Since I've read 20 books in the past couple months or so, my TBR shelf is suffering. It's times like these where I wish there was a service out there that could mail fresh published books straight to my door.
Ding dong.
This video is sponsored by Book of the Month! It's a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers like me. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books that they love, all while cutting out the middleman, so then you don't have to waste as much time researching your next read. Spend more time flipping through pages and less time flipping through websites? Yes, please. I love how varied the genres are, so you can try something new, branch out a little bit. It's almost a challenge to find something you won't like each and every month. But my personal favorite part of Book of the Month is that it's risk-free. You can push pause on your Book of the Month subscription without being penalized. Exquisite. At this present time, Book of the Month only ships to the US. Plus, they have an unmatched best price for new release hardcover fiction. You can get your first book for $9.99 with the code FALL5, baby! So, what are the books for September? I'm glad you asked. First, we have The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Egaro. An unexpected loss leads a young woman on a soul-searching journey to reconnect with her Nigerian family and find herself. Next, we have The Neighbor Seeker by L. Allison Heller. A suburban book club discovers life can be more disturbing than fiction when a vandal disrupts life on the cul-de-sac. Next, we have Beautiful Country by Chan Julie Wang, a moving memoir filtered through a child's eyes about a Chinese family struggling in the shadow of the American dream. Next is The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, a funny underdog love story. After a fake relationship generates real sparks, a rising scientist must decide if she's ready to experiment with love. Last but not least, if you're looking for a fast read filled with suspense, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney is for you. When a remote anniversary getaway turns eerie, a couple learns if their marriage can bear the weight of their secrets. Bum, bum, bum. But I'm genuinely looking forward to reading all of these. Let me know which one you would pick or are going to pick when you click the link in the description box below. That will lead you to your first newly published book for just $9.99. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, your baby's first sponsor. Whew, she feels like a real booktuber. Let's talk about the last 20 books that I read over the past couple of months in rapid fire succession, starting with Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space by Amanda Leduc. This is a nonfiction book that covers how little disability is covered in the many fairy tales and folklore that we've been told since we were kids. I really felt like she had a good perspective. Appreciate all the hard work and effort that she put into her examples. There are so many stories that I didn't even know about that have been shaping our perspective throughout our childhood, and that's extremely important to point out in my opinion. However, I do believe that if she delved deeper into the examples that she provided, it would have strengthened the book as a whole. We read this for the Pocket Pages book club, and I thank all of you for helping me shape my perspective on this one, because at first I gave it 4 stars, but upon further introspection, this lands right in the middle as a 3 for me. I liked it, but I think it could have been stronger as well. Next, Coraline by Neil Gaiman. We just read this for August. I have a Coraline tattoo. Thank you to the person that pointed out that I didn't share said tattoo the last time I said that. I love Coraline. It's a fast-paced, semi-spooky story about a little girl who finds out that her world is duplicated in a secret door in her home. It has one of my favorite themes, which is the grass is always greener on the other side, make the best with what you've got kind of thing. It's no secret this is a 5-star favorite of mine. Next, So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson. I think the reason this wasn't as strong as I expected it to be is just because of when it was published. It came out in 2014, which was before the Me Too movement started, which is the first place my brain goes to when cancel culture is mentioned. I think this book could be a great addition to a paper, essay, or debate that you're having around this topic, so it landed on 3 stars for me. Next, we're gonna go over the 4 books that I read for Reading Fictional Fates, or Joel Rochester's favorite books. If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. This is a very simple story about a man who finds out he's going to die and the devil offers him an exchange of sorts for another day of living. It's philosophical and it's sweet, but I felt like it could have dug a little deeper. I felt like it could have hit harder, so it landed at 3 stars for me. Next, this is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mokhtar and Max Gladstone. This is technically a sci-fi sapphic romance. The way it's written was way too complicated for me. I just think a lot of its references flew over my head and I found it very confusing, and at no point did I have any idea what was going on, which I think is one of its charms to some people, but it just didn't work for me, so it got 1 star. Next was The Silence of Bones by Yoon Her. This takes place in the early 1800s in Korea, and this teenage girl is indebted to the police department in her city, so she's responsible for working with the various women, victims, witnesses, etc. It's a very unique setting, it's a very unique voice, and it taught me how Catholics were viewed and treated in Korea at this time, which I was personally never taught about. So for that, I find this quite underrated and pretty important to read. Still a good time, still a good read. I gave it 3 stars. Up next is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm sorry, I didn't like this one. In the video where I read Joel's favorites, I delved deeper into all these books and my feelings on them, and quite a few people were disappointed with the fact that I didn't get a kick out of this book. Overall, it fell super flat for me. I didn't care about the drama. I didn't care about this American dream, rags to riches kind of story. It's just not for me. That's just my own personal gripe. I thought the twist at the ending was quite weak, but if this is something that sounds like it interests you, please do not let me discourage you from reading it. A lot of people like it for a reason. My word is not law under any circumstances. So it got 2 stars for me, but for a lot of people this is a favorite. So read it if you want. Next, let's go through the books that I read for Summerween. And for that, we have Sheets by Brenna Thumler. This is a graphic novel about a little ghost boy, and it has the most gorgeous color palette I have ever seen in my entire life. It was an extremely aesthetically pleasing read. I think the stakes could have been a bit higher, but overall, this was cute, and I gave it 3 stars. Next, we have The Fetishists by A.S. Coomer. This book is about a man who buys a woman for the evening and then wakes up the next morning with his finger missing. Extremely interesting elevator pitch. However, this is my least favorite book in the stack by far. I felt like his vocabulary was really weak. Like every sentence started with the word he did this, he did that, he went downstairs. It just wasn't it for me. The premise is so fascinating and promising, and it just let me down. I gave it 1 star. Next, The Summer I Died by Ryan C. Thomas. This one I thought I wouldn't enjoy. I was judging by its cover. It looks like it was self-published for Amazon, and because of that, I thought it would either be really strong or really flat, and it delivered. Oh my gosh. This book freaked me out. It's under 200 pages, so it reads like a movie. I lost some sleep over this book. It got me caring about the characters. It felt like an 80s summer friendship romp-a-roll, and it turned into this bloody disaster. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I am both tempted and terrified to pick up the other 2. 5 stars. Up next is False Witness by Karen Slaughter. I was interested through and through, but the pacing was a bit off. Wrapped up fairly quickly while kind of dragging in the middle, but once again, she's yanking you left and right, having you question every turn. Who's the bad guy? Who can we trust? And it's about sisters, which gets me every time, especially murderous sisters. Still had a good time with this one. I don't regret reading it at all, and I gave it 3 stars. Next, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. There is a critique that all of Riley Sager's books are the same, and you know what? That may be true. However, I'm here for it. I love cheap thrills. This book was fun. This book was exciting, fast-paced, unreliable narrator, unreliable everyone else. Both books that I've read by Riley Sager, Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark, I devour so fast without even trying, and I love when books don't take effort, so I have to give him credit for that. Are his characters kind of similar? Maybe. I've read 2 of them. Do I intend to read more? Yes. Did this one get 4 stars from me? Yes. Next, we found some new favorites over the past couple of months. Boy, did we. One of them being The Anthropocene Reviewed by none other than John Green. This is the genre for him. Non-fiction, short essays, short stories, so good. He has such a fun voice, such strong writing skills. In the same 3-page essay, he has you questioning life itself, feeling existential dread around death, and laughing about Canadian geese. How? Magic. This book was it. 5 stars, new favorite. Up next, How Do You Live by Genzo Yoshino. Speaking of existential dread, this is about a young teenage boy who has a lot of questions about life, and so he teams up with his uncle, who writes him all these deep philosophical letters about what it means to live a good life and what it means to be a good person. It was so simple and heartwarming, but so layered and comforting and just fabulous. I totally understand why Miyazaki made a movie about this, which I've yet to see, which I need to watch. 5 stars, new favorite. So good. Another favorite that I found is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sujimura. This book is magical realism about a group of friends who all live in different places but have access to the same castle through a magical mirror in their bedroom. This may be my favorite book of forever and all time. I got a tattoo to represent it. I got the Wolf Queen herself on my leg to live with me forever. That's how good this book is. It was so sweet and lighthearted while also punching you right in the chest. A lot of you reached out to me saying that you got this book due to to the reading blog where I find new favorite books, and said that you also really like it, which is just so cool to me. I don't know what else to say except for read it. If you like magical realism, read it. It's so perfect. Next, Lost in Yaba, Down and Out in Laos by Walt Gleason. This is about a man who visits Laos and ends up staying there due to him being addicted to this very specific drug called Yaba. I had never heard of this before. I had no idea that there was an epidemic in Laos. Much like all these books, look into the trigger warnings and all of that jazz. We're picking any of them up. But something that took me out of this a little bit was transphobic language. Pretty disappointing, to put it as lightly as possible. But aside from that, I appreciated his raw honesty, and I thank him for sharing his story. I gave it 3 stars. Next, I reread A Little Life. This is one of my favorite books. I have a whole reading blog dedicated to this book. In a nutshell, I would argue one of the best character studies of all time, an important representation of post-traumatic stress disorder, and a really gut-wrenching and moving tale that doesn't feel like 800 plus pages. One of my favorite books, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. I'm gonna say it till the end of time. Last but not least, I read the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang, which includes The Poppy War, The Dragon Republic, and The Burning God. The Poppy War was so strong that after the first chapter, I ordered the other 2 in the series. I think R.F. Kuang's writing is exquisite. Everything about this series was so fine-tuned. The twist at the end of The Dragon Republic, I gasped out loud. I personally had a hard time with the last one just because the socio-political entanglements of this series had me just a bit lost, and I did have a hard time juggling the characters and everyone's alignments, but the series overall was so strong. I'm so glad I read it. I'm proud of myself for finishing these. I would recommend these if you're into fantasy. This is easily one of the best series that I read in a hot minute. So that's it. Those are the 20 books that I read over the past couple of months. I'm gonna drink some tea and take a nap now. Thank you so much again, Book of the Month, for sponsoring this video. Couldn't be more jazzed. And as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for caring, and thank you for being nice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!